The Black community has long suffered under the weight of systemic racism and discrimination. As white people, it is our responsibility to use our privilege to support and uplift the Black community. Here are a few ways that we can be better allies. Listen and learn. We need to listen to Black voices and experiences without interrupting or dismissing them. We should educate ourselves on the history of systemic racism and the ways that it continues to impact the Black community today. We should seek out resources, books, and documentaries that help us understand the issues. Next, speak up. We should use our privilege to speak up against racism and discrimination. We should challenge racist comments and behaviors, even if it's uncomfortable. Silence that which perpetuates racism. We should support Black-owned businesses in our communities. We should advocate for policies that support economic justice and equity. Donate to Black-led organizations. Financially support Black-led organizations that are working to address systemic racism and inequality. It can be done through regular contributions or contributing to certain campaigns and initiatives. We should also use our platforms for good as white people. We have access to platforms and audiences that the Black community may not have. We should use our platforms to amplify Black voices and perspectives, raise awareness about issues affecting the Black community, and promote positive change. Be open to feedback and learning from our mistakes, as we will make mistakes along the way. But it's important to acknowledge them, apologize, and learn from them. We should be open to feedback and willing to change our behavior and perspectives as we continue to learn and grow. Being a better ally to the Black community requires a willingness to listen, learn, and take action. It requires us to use our privilege for good, support Black-owned businesses and communities, and speak up against racism and discrimination. It's up to all of us to work towards a more just and equitable society. And being a better ally is an important step. If you like the content and benefit from it, give me a follow.
If you're really committed to being a racist in this country, you can't unsee what I'm about to show you. You might want to start. If you're really committed to being a racist in this country, you can't unsee what I'm about to show you. You might want to start checking Amazons for blankets, because this gas furnace behind me, you don't get to have one of those either, because that was invented by a Black woman named Alice Parker around 1920. She received a patent on it. Yeah, that's how we stay warm today.
You're saying because you in your video you said we don't need them, they need us. Who's they?
Yes.
Who's they?
The white people ultimately don't need other races in order to succeed, in order to be ourselves. Absolutely not.
So how do you think America became the greatest economic nation without?
Not through Black people.
Oh, it wasn't? It wasn't because of free labor?
Are you talking about slavery?
No, I'm talking about slavery and also what happened after slavery, which Douglas Blackman talked about, slavery by another name. So I'm trying to understand, when you say didn't need it, how do you think America became the greatest economy that it did? How do you think that happened?
Through the genius of Europeans.
How was it the genius of Europeans when the fact of the matter is it was actually King Cotton that supplied the economic means for America to do so? And that was a result of free labor from Black people.
Look, the whole point here is that who creates these systems, who creates these business models and businesses?
Slavery was a business model?
Well, yes, it was a business model, yeah.
And was that one that you like or dislike?
I dislike.
You dislike?
Yeah, I absolutely reject it.
Okay,
yeah.
So but you deny the reality, though,
no,
that's what allowed America to become the economic power, because America supplied 91% of the world's cotton, and so as a result of that, that's how America was able to fund the Industrial Revolution. It was because of free labor from Black people.
La famille Dubois habite dans un appartement confortable à Paris.
Absolutely right. Black people were paying taxes for food stamps that they didn't fucking qualify for in 1939. In 1939, they were federally funded. So that means the federal taxes by Americans was paying for that shit. Almost knocked that over. Black Americans were paying through them through income tax, sales tax, and other forms of taxation, even though most of them were excluded from receiving any of those goddamn benefits. Franklin D. Roosevelt made the New Deal with farmers and the surplus of food that they had on hand. And this gave farmers the ability to sell their surplus and help feed the hungry. I'm sorry, white folks. This allowed white folks to get orange stamps for food and blue stamps for surplus food for free. Now, the program was administered through local government and often by county offices. And in the Jim Crow South, baby, you weren't getting shit. Local offices routinely denied black folks of any help or gave them little to no amount. At that time, we didn't have our civil rights, so no one could fight against the discrimination of food aid. So while black people helped fund food stamps, white people got to eat off of our backs. Something that has been happening since the beginning of this fucking country. White folks love to call black people ghetto and tell us to change our culture. Yes, that shit came from a congressman, but don't realize they kept eating off of us from the beginning. So for all you white folks that sit there and talk shit about black people and being on food stamps and any type of services that the government funds for people in need, baby, y'all are the first broke bitches in this country.
We the reason America. Not just with the Civil War, brother. Let's go before the Civil War. Let's go to the Louisiana Purchase. Do you know that this country is 3 times the size it was? Because the Haitian Revolution went to Saint-Le Overture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines and Christophe and Pétion and Cecil Fatiman and Boukman and Macandal, when they destroyed Napoleon's army, a slave army defeated the greatest general the white man ever had. Right. An army of slaves defeated the greatest general the white man ever had. And because the Haitian Revolution bankrupted Napoleon, he sold his American territories to America for pennies on the dollar.
I remember that.
The Louisiana Purchase loan quadrupled the size of the United States of America. So when I tell you America wouldn't be America without black people, America wouldn't be America without black people.
That's a fact.
Black power. Black power.
This country can't survive without you. It's never happened in the history of the world. In 1950, America was 90% white. It's not my opinion, it's a fact. I'm not making a racial comment, it's math. So that means with Dr. King, Andrew Young, other people, that was a miracle. It was moral. Today, America is 40% black and brown. Within 10 years, there'll be a majority of minorities. Baby boomers, all white, wealthy, and trying to go play golf at the same time. That's what's up right now. You got more people under age 18 and over 60, you have more people over 65 than under age 18. Those under 18 are black and brown. This economy is 70% consumer spending. 70. Not rich people. You. Car notes, rent, conference fees, small business, payroll, small things which you control. The largest economy on the planet, $30 trillion, and it can't survive without you. So here's what I said. I've been in Fortune, I've been at Time, I've been at conferences, very conservative people. Here's what I say. It always survives the this test. They don't do this. I say, I think you know what I'm going to say. Here's what I have to say. I want every white person here to be successful. That's number one thing I'm saying. Number two, there's not enough college-educated, successful white men to drive GDP, gross domestic product, for the next 20 years. It's mathematically impossible. So unless you want to be speaking Chinese, Mandarin in the next 20 years, no, that went over your head. Let me, you think you're at a black conference. You think you're at some conference that's about some narrow agenda. That's not what Bishop G.D. Jakes thinks. That's not what the God has endowed. You are the cultural post. You have defined culture and cool all over the world. If you say it's cool in South Korea. But what we have not defined, what we have not mastered, is capitalism and commerce. Where the rules are published and the playing field is level, we kill it. Sports. The arts. politics. From slavery to the President of the United States of America. When the rules are published and the playing field is level, we kill it. No one gave us anything. We went and took it. Playing by the rules. Wishing everybody else well. So what happens if you turn your attention to capitalism and free enterprise? And you don't just say Black lives matter, Black capitalists matter.
If you're really committed to being a racist in this country, you can't unsee what I'm about to show you. You might want to start checking Amazons for blankets, because this gas furnace behind me, you don't get to have one of those either, because that was invented by a black woman named Alice Parker around 1920. She received a patent on it. Yeah, that's how we stay warm today. I mean, if you love potato chips, they gotta go, because a man named George Crumb, a chef in New York, had sent French fries out with a meal and a customer complained. So what did Mr. Crumb do? He sliced potatoes so thin, fried them up, dumped a bunch of salt on them, and sent them out. And that is the American delight of potato chips. They gotta go.
Now, we often hear about reverse racism now.
There's no such thing as reverse racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism. You can only be a racist if you have the power to institutionalize what you're doing to people who are different from you. What we're calling reverse racism is natural reaction to being treated unfairly on the basis of somebody else's ignorance. Now, don't ever let anybody say to you or about anyone around you that people don't like that person because of the color of their skin. That isn't the reason white people don't like people of color. They don't like people of color because they don't understand about skin color. And they don't understand that we all are descendants of somebody who looked like your mother. And it's time to change the White House to the President's house. This is ridiculous, to call the place where the President of the United States lives the White House. It sends the wrong message. It says, I remember when Richard Nixon said to a group of reporters, I'm trying to save the White House for you white people. That says it all. And at that moment I thought, well, wait a minute. Now this is something that has to be changed, and it has to be changed. Nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. It's time to change the name of the White House to the President's house or the President's residence, which has a nice ring to it, don't you think? Well, I'm going to get lots of angry responses to that one. And I understand that. But I'm reading a book right now. Everybody that's watching this has to read this book on tyranny. 20 things that we've learned over the last 100 years in this country that have put us in the position we're in now and what we can do about it. Everybody has to read this book. They should read this book first, and then they should read The Myth of Race by Robert Wald Sussman. And once you've read The Myth of Race, you will never, ever again go along with the idea that there are 3 or 4 or 5 different races. It was a lie made up by the people who ran the Spanish Inquisition. And before that, there were different colors, but race had nothing to do. There was only one race, the human race. We made that whole thing up. It's time to get rid of it. We have the power to do that. This country got ready for World War II in about 6 months. And you're telling me that we can't destroy racism? White people created racism. Anything you create, you can destroy. God created human beings, the human race, and they started out black women. White people created racism. Human beings created racism. It's time to get over it.
Today, most urban sectors, especially Milwaukee, remains hyper-segregated. Why is it taking so long, or why doesn't it seem like we can move the button on diversity in neighborhoods?
Because the people who have the power in this country are the people who have the money. And the people who have the money are going to decide where people live. You need to realize that there are more children attending segregated schools in the United States today than there were previous to Brown versus Board of Education. And that's a fact. You need to realize that it is not the intent of white people to let this situation change in favor of anyone but themselves. And right now, white people are really frightened. If you don't understand the destruction of Planned Parenthood offices, and you don't understand the wall that we're going to build on the southern border of the United States, you haven't read the book The Birth Dearth by Ben Wattenberg. Ben Wattenberg was a brilliant Jewish man who was a member of the American Enterprise Institute. And he wrote a book, the first paragraph of which says, the main problem confronting the United States today is there aren't enough white babies being born in this country. He was an advisor to presidents of the United States. He wrote the book in 1987. He says if we don't change this and change it rapidly, white people will lose their numerical majority in this country, and this will no longer be a white man's land. Now, I'm not misrepresenting this. I'm telling you exactly, almost exactly what he says. He says there are 3 things we can do to solve this. Number 1, we could pay women to have babies, as they have been doing in Western European nations for years. Then he says, and these are his words, not mine, unfortunately, we would have to pay women of all colors to have babies, so we don't want to do that. He says the second thing we could do is increase the number of legal immigrants that are allowed into this country every year. Then once again he says, unfortunately, the vast majority of those wanting to come to this country today are people of color, so we don't want to do that. The third thing he says, and women had better pay attention to this, 60% of the fetuses that are aborted every year are white. If we could keep that 60% alive, that would solve our birth dearth. Does that sound like racism to you? And if it doesn't, I want to know why it doesn't. If it doesn't, you don't understand what racism is. And I think it does.
Right. A lot of people don't understand the trauma associated with race and racism. Can you talk a little bit about the trauma associated with?
The trauma associated with it? Yeah. One of the main traumas is it tells white people that they are superior because of the lack of melanin in their skin. And then they find out suddenly that we've got a black president. That's traumatic. That's where the trauma is. Living a lie, finding out the truth is traumatic. Finding out now, recently, that within 30 years, white people will be in the numerical minority in this country is going to be traumatic. And that's the reason we have to solve this problem, and we have to solve it now. I will ask folks tonight, how many of you black folks want to get even with all white people? And that's what white people are quite certain blacks are going to want to do, is get even with all white people. And nobody will raise their hand. And then I'll say, how many of you want to get even with 1 or 2? Every hand will go up, and you know why, and so do I. White people are scared to death right now, particularly white males. They're scared to death that they are going to lose their power in the future. And they are. But if you want to get ready for the future, if you want to be treated well in the future, treat others well in the present. What we do in the present constructs the future. What we have done in the past, we can learn from that. And we'd better learn from that. Those who forget the mistakes of the past are doomed to repeat them. And when you read this book, you'll realize that that's exactly what we're doing. We're repeating the mistakes that we have made in the past because we aren't teaching about these mistakes in the present. We are not teaching history that is true. We aren't teaching social studies that is true. We aren't even teaching true geography, for God's sake.
When we hear, when I hear people say that they're not racist and things like that, and we talk about building racial harmony in this country, I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime. Can you predict in the near future or far future when we will ever have racial harmony in this country?
In 30 years, white people will have found out that they have no choice but to get along with those who are different from themselves. I'm not willing, I'd love to wait, but I can't. At my age, I'm not going to be here in 30 years. But we could change this situation if we chose to. During the Second World War, we called the Japanese, and you'll pardon me, but this is what we called them, slant-eyed little yellow We didn't say that about the Germans. After the war, we rebuilt Germany and Japan, and we get along beautifully with the Japanese. That was in 1945 that we finally won that war. How many years ago was that? Figure that out quickly.
I'm not a math person, but...
You're not a math person, but you know it wasn't that far. Right. And it didn't take 50 years for us to have peace with the Japanese and the Germans, even though we dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan. The Japanese hadn't killed 10 million people. Nowhere near that. We didn't drop any bombs on Germany, any atomic bombs on Germany. They were a different kind of people. We couldn't afford to do that. We killed how many Japanese people with 2 atomic bombs? And they forgave us. You want to talk about forgiveness? You want to talk about changing this thing? I cannot understand how Japanese people can stand the sight of any of us, and yet they do. I cannot understand why black people who have been subjected to the ugliness that they've been subjected to in this country can get up every morning and go to work among us and not be absolutely furious. And I don't understand why we allow white people to behave the way they do. I don't understand that. And my 3rd graders, after they'd gone through the exercise, couldn't understand it and wouldn't tolerate it. And when they went up to junior high, and a junior high teacher used the N-word, one of my former students said, If you're going to use that word, I'm going to go out in the hall until you stop using it, because we don't use that word in this school. That was a seventh grader who told his teacher off. When we have enough students who are willing to confront people who are making racist, sexist, ageist, homophobic statements, we're going to be better off. We have got to stop tolerating the intolerable. If it's intolerable for my black cousins, and every black person on this earth is one of my cousins, if it's intolerable for them, it's intolerable for me. I will not tolerate it. I will not tolerate it. That is not that. I am required not to tolerate that kind of treatment for the people who are related to me. And that's every person on the face of the earth. If your ignorance is such that you'll mistreat somebody because of your ignorance about the color of their skin, don't do it around me. Number one, I've been threatened with death lots of times. Now I say, go for it, fool. My husband died 4 years ago. Being with him would not be a bad thing for me. Death is not the worst thing that can happen to you. Living a worthless, useless life is much worse than dying.
Something down for you, right? America is not just a country. It's a machine, every piece of it. The government, the corporations, the banks, the military, the schools, they're all gears working together to keep this engine running. But here's the truth that they don't want you to realize. This machine does not run without us. Black people have been the engine oil of America since 1619. We built the infrastructure, we picked the cotton that funded Wall Street, and created the culture that powers the world. We are the rhythm, the labor, the innovation, the humanity that keeps this whole thing from rusting apart. And now under Project 2025, that same machine is being redesigned, not to include us, but to use us quietly while pretending we don't matter. They're trying to rebuild America into a system that looks free on paper, but functions like a modern plantation, where your work is necessary, but your freedom is optional, where your voice is legal, but your influence is erased. That's what this Trump regime won't say out loud. They don't want America to look racist. They just want it to function that way again. They don't want segregation signs. They want segregation through policy like housing and wages and education and even access to the truth. See, every machine needs two things, right? Power and control. And Black America has always been the power. That's why they fight so hard for the control. They can't risk us realizing how valuable we are, because if we ever moved in unity, this whole engine would have to be rebuilt from the ground up. But here's the part that they have not calculated for. We're not just workers in this machine anymore. We're becoming engineers. We're creating our own businesses. We're building our own schools. We're mastering technology and globally connecting to Africa in the diaspora. We're learning how the system works so we can build one that works for us. And let me tell you something else. If America ever tries to run without us, without our creativity, our moral compass, our spirit, it'll run loud, but it won't go anywhere. Because without the people who built it, the machine breaks down. So my message is simple. Don't fear Project 2025. Understand it. Because once you understand how this machine operates, you can stop being a cog and start being a creator. You can stop asking to be accepted and start designing your own future. Because the truth is, America needs us far more than we need it. And when that realization becomes collective, when we all start moving like we know our value, no president, no project, no policy can stop what's coming next.
Lotta Newman patented the first hairbrush with synthetic bristles in 1898, and she's just the third Black American woman to ever receive a patent. And I know this isn't going to affect those skinheads very much. In 1892, George Sampson of Dayton, Ohio, received patent number 476,416 for what is the forerunner of the modern dryer we use today. It's going to suck dry on your clothes outside. In the late 1880s, Samuel Scotron of Pennsylvania patented the curtain rod. Ooh, let's go piss off some white girls. It's going to be really hard to plan racist rallies without a color monitor. Invented by Mark Dean, an engineer at IBM, he is also on 3 of the original 9 patents of the IBM PC that came out in 1981. Did you know in 1897, Albert Crowell in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, developed the mechanized ice cream scoop. You know, the click, click that separates the ice cream from the spoon, changing the way ice cream is served. And if you're racist and an ice cream lover, it's going to get worse. I told you it's going to get worse. Augustus Jackson, the father of ice cream, pioneered many of the methods we have today to enjoy ice cream, including the way we salt it. Another thing about being a racist, you're going to have to give up the freezer and frozen foods, because Frederick McKinley Jones of Ohio, who was orphaned at 9 years old with a 6th grade education, a young biracial boy, grew up to invent Thermo King, which is the reason why we have frozen foods that are shipped and stored in stores and our homes. You got to give up ice cream and frozen pieces? Do you see that little doohickey on the wall right there, that little white thing? That's called your thermostat. That's how you control your AC. That was invented by David Crossway, who got his engineering degree right here in Indiana at Purdue University. He's so cold, he designed the heating system for Radio City Music Hall and Rockefeller Center. Sorry, racists, no AC this summer. This is really going to mess your shit up. The porcelain toilet as we know it was designed by Thomas Elkins in 1872.
Let me break.
Hey, come here. How many races does it take to change a light bulb? None. They don't want to be enlightened. Which is too bad, because the carbon filament in the light bulb that we've grown up and used, you know, that lights up really bright, was invented by Louis Latimer, who's one of the chief engineers for Thomas Edison, and he helped design the telephone with Alexander Graham Bell. I mean, you can't even do something as simple as open the door, because that door handle was patented in 1878 by Osborne Dorsey. Yeah, sorry guys. I mean, I guess you probably were raised in a barn. And if you think you want to call all your buddies to come meet you at the laundromat so you can wash your white sheets together, because let's face it, if you're still a racist, you don't have a dryer, you don't have a gas furnace heater, you don't have a thermostat to control your AC, you can't open your doors without a doorknob, and you especially cannot call your buddies without the cell phone. You're going to have to get rid of these, like I said, because Henry Sampson, a black genius inventor, patented and invented the gamma ray process, which uses radio waves to transmit and receive audio signals, which is what makes cell phones able to communicate with each other, and changed all our lives significantly. If you're still on that racist trip, I got some bad news for you. Your Nectar of the Gods Hidden Valley Ranch dressing was created by a black Nebraska cowboy named Steve Henson. And what many people might not know is he was a plumbing contractor in Alaska and made his fortune up there. And he created the dry powder ranch seasoning and gave it out to his employees, and they loved it. And when he retired and bought Hidden Valley Ranch in California, hence the name Hidden Valley Ranch, he started to sell it. Now he ended up selling it to Clorox Bleach, which they still own, which is a little weird when you think about it. The perfect white condiment sold to a company that makes a chemical that makes everything white. What did Mr. Henson know that he's not telling us? See that television behind me? There's a black badass American named Otis Boykin who developed a wire precision resistor for these TVs, which helped control the flow of electricity. More importantly, 2 years later, he improved upon this in 1961, making versions that could withstand extreme changes in pressure and temperature. Now, why is this important? Because TVs that work in Denver, Colorado would not work correctly in Little Rock, Arkansas. That being a very humid, hot state, Colorado being very dry, and then different air pressure up there. This greatly reduced the cost of TVs because you could mass produce them and sell them in Texas and Alaska, the same model. But wait, there's more. This man also developed the control unit for the pacemaker, which exists in over 1 million people today. So if you're racist, you probably know somebody's life who was saved by Otis Boykin. And the TV you watch? Otis Boykin. And he also helped design guided missile systems for the military. Yeah, told you he's a badass. Oh, you're not going to like this. Not the lawnmower. Yep, Now, while Albert Burr did not invent the lawnmower, he did patent the mechanical lawnmowers you see pictured above, which has design elements that are used to today's mowers, as well as his original mechanical design is making a huge comeback with people being really conscious about climate change. I guess some people will be hiring a lawn service now. Can't be using a lawnmower improved upon by a black man. This one's gonna sting. The ultimate white powder, sugar. Norbert Ryu, a black Creole Cajun man from Louisiana, was obsessed with steam engines and was a widely regarded expert in them. He developed an evaporator process that has revolutionized the entire sugar industry, and some of his principles are still used today. Gotta go. So after all this, if you are still down with this racist gig, a lot of your shit's gotta go. I mean, you're gonna have a huge garage sale. And I just have one thing to say to all the stuff you gotta get rid of.
All right, racists. People often ask me, did you invent the helicopter? That's a complicated question.
Let's talk about the black American inventor who holds the patent for the helicopter. The first usable helicopter was patented by Paul E. Williams on November 26, 1962. The first useful helicopter was the Lockheed Model 186. Paul E. Williams was born on February 1, 1894 in Los Angeles. In 1921, he became a licensed architect and became the first black member of the American Institution of Architects in 1923. He also worked in the Navy Department as an architect during World War II. As an architect, Paul E. Williams designed over 3,000 buildings. In the early 1900s, vertical flying was a pipe dream for white engineers. They were too stupid to fully accomplish vertical flight. Many white invention thieves were thought to have a hand in the actual invention of the helicopter. Yet no one actually invented the rotors necessary for the usage of vertical flight until Paul E. Williams achieved his patent in 1908. The racism behind ignoring his work is mainly why this country fails to give him credit for inventing the helicopter. His patent wasn't even recognized until 1962. Another sly, coward attempt by white men to hide the achievements of black Americans while simultaneously needing them. Paul Williams joins a list of many black inventors whose work was stolen by inferior whites. His creation in rotor-based vertical flight was snubbed, and much was credited to Europeans, who couldn't even get their helicopter design off the ground. So we are 4 days into Black History Month, and we have yet to come across an invention or monumental invention by another race in this country. Was there anything that Native Americans invented in this country? Oh yes, that's right. Natives were building kayaks and inventing snow goggles that they can use on their reservations in the Grand Canyon, while black Americans were committing the indigenous acts of building helicopters and designing homes. All right, racists.
The next time you grab hold of a doorknob, think of Osborne Dorsey. Dorsey, a black man, invented the doorknob in 1878.
Let's discuss the invention that gave everyone with a home privacy. The invention of the doorknob. Think about it. At home, at work, in stores, we're always relying on doorknobs. Doorknobs are the unsung heroes of our safety, privacy, home protection, and personal space. We have Osborne Dorsey, who was born in 1862, to thank for that. In the 19th century, people used to rely on leather straps or latches to keep their doors shut. Neither method was secure or convenient. However, a 16-year-old genius had a solution. In 1878, at the very youthful age of 16, Osborne Dorsey received a patent from the U.S. Patent Office. His initial patent request was for a device he named the door-holding device. Dorsey's design included a knob-like shape, described in his patent as a case or cap which could be easily attached to doors with screws, which is the foundation of the modern doorknob as we see today. It took time for people to embrace this new invention, but once they did, the doorknob became a game changer. Fast forward more than 100 years, and Dorsey's idea has evolved into an essential part of daily life. Modern doorknobs now feature advanced designs from sleek, minimalist styles to smart locks with keyless entry, which has evolved his invention, blending security and technology. These innovations build on Dorsey's original concept, proving how one brilliant idea can shape the way we live and interact with our spaces. So anytime you step outside into the world with racism as your personality, don't forget that the device that you touch to exit your home was crafted by the very people you hate. There's not a city, a reservation, or home that Dorsey's invention hasn't touched. The peace and the security that was robbed from black Americans didn't stop them from inventing safety and security for others. Alright, racists, let's wrap things up. We have come to the conclusion that black people have created just about everything, which factually makes them the original people. And I'm sure that the belief system in the social studies coded history has you assuming differently, but since some of you believed that the black American inventions were only historic, let's dispel that ideology right now. Here is who is inventing in the modern times. Janet Emerson Bashan. She obtained the patent for LinkLine, a web app that manages workplace discrimination claims. She is the first black woman to patent a web-based platform. Mark Dean, the co-inventor of the IBM PC, the color monitor, and first gigahertz microprocessor. Every single desktop computer runs on his code. Dr. Hadaya Nicole Green, a physicist, invented laser-activated nanoparticles that target and kill cancer cells without chemo side effects. Cutting-edge medicine with precision. Bonnie Johnson, the Super Soaker creator, who's now building the JTEC heat-to-electricity converter for green energy. And last but definitely not least, Lanny Smoot, Disney Imagineer with 100+ patents, lightsabers, BB-8 systems, Holotile AR/VR. The future theme parks run on his tech. And some racists laugh and gawk at the idea of a shorter list. But that's just it. We could have an extensive modern list. If racist America would remove its allergy for peace, prosperity, and life, imagine how amazing our lives would be if we would just get out of the way and allow the natural creators to just thrive. Modern black brilliance isn't waiting for permission. They're coding, cooling, giving, loving, nurturing, providing, struggling, hurting, fighting, entertaining, healing, and innovating right now. Hell, you are still following the path that black Americans lead to this day. Black American indigenous names don't belong in the footnotes, especially when they are always the subject and the body of the work.
Top 5 black inventors they tried to erase, and number 1 will absolutely shock you. Number 5, Frederick McKinley Jones. He invented refrigerated trucks. Walmart and Tyson made billions. His name erased. Number 4, Benjamin Bradley. A teenager enslaved in the Navy, he built a steam engine for warships, but by law, he couldn't patent it. White officers claimed it. Number 3, Ned. He created the cotton scraper, doubling farm output. His owner stole the idea, white farmers profited, and Ned was erased. Number 2, Granville T. Woods, the Black Edison. He invented railway telegraphs. Edison tried to steal his patents. Woods beat him in court. Twice. Number 1, Jan Ernst Matzeliger. He invented the shoe-lasting machine, making affordable shoes for all. The footwear industry exploded, his name buried. So why do we celebrate Ford and Edison but not Jones, Bradley, Ned, Woods, or Matzeliger? How much of America was built on stolen black genius? Comment, black excellence, if you refuse to let their names stay.
Sometimes a simple conversation can challenge decades of assumption. Across podcasts, documentaries, university, and public forum, social media, more Americans are revisiting the history of black Americans, not just through the lens of slavery, but through family lineage, cultural heritage, resilience, and countless contributions that helped shape the United States. Some white folks have acknowledged that early public narrative often overlooked the complexity of black American history. Instead of reducing generation of people to one chapter in history, they are calling for a broader understanding of ancestry, achievement, and identity, and the contribution of black invention to the United States of America. Historians point out that black American lineage reflects a rich and diverse story, connecting African heritage with centuries of life, cultural innovation, and perseverance in the United States. That story includes entrepreneurship, inventors, educators, military veterans, artists, scientists, civil rights leaders whose influence contribute to shape the nation into its power, political, and economic strategy today. Some white folks have now realized that more black Americans have contributed to the United States of America development in terms of many inventions, which were mentioned in the video you saw earlier. For many people, this is not about writing history. It's about filling in the missing pages. The more we learn about American past, the more we realize that understanding every community story gives us a more complete picture of the country itself. Now, This conversation is taking and going far because some of the white folks are now realizing that the economy they live on was built by most Black America, and they are now giving the Black American the credit they deserve. Whether this conversation leads to greater understanding or continued debate remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: history becomes stronger when it's examined with evidence, context, and the willingness to learn. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notification bell so you never miss our discussion on history, culture, and current events. Thank you. See you in the next.